Tonkin here from the Child Protection Party. Welcome to our second effort at The Circle. So tonight we've got some special people to talk about our topic, which I did introduce you to last week, which is foster care. So we've got a number of questions that we're going to talk about, but first we'll just introduce Frank over here on my left. Say hi to you.
Hello everybody.
Thanks Frank. And we have
JD, thank you for joining.
And we have
Anthony. Hi,
right,
everybody.
so a very important group of people. Now, the way this is going to work is today you'll be seeing this video for the first time. It is pre-recorded. A lot of effort gone into us putting this together, I dare say. But tomorrow, we're recording this on Tuesday, so tomorrow when this goes live, at the end of this video, we'll have someone here to talk to you about foster care and to answer some of the questions that you might have that you're putting up in the discussion or comment part of the Facebook feed. And we'll be having Dr. Deirdre Michelle will be here talking about foster care. She just released a book which is on the history of foster care in Australia. It's a seminal book. It's the first one ever been released around that subject. So she'll be here to talk to you with and answer perhaps some of the questions that you might have. So we're going to start. So everybody just jump in. It's just a discussion, and we'll see kind of where we go from there. Is that okay, team?
Yes.
Yeah, that
Team?
works.
Yeah. Well, we don't know if it'll work, do we, until we actually try it. So the first question we're going to ask is, and you might like to think about this as well, and place your comments as well. This is an opportunity for all of us to learn about what it is the community wishes to have in relation to foster care. What are your views on foster care and so on? So the first question, we all have our pieces of paper. Aren't we so industrious? Seriously. Yeah. So the first question we're asking is, what could improve the foster care system? Now, anybody just jump in. I've got thousands of ideas.
Support. More support for foster parents.
Yep.
Especially when there's children that have disabilities. And a massive one, culture.
What do you mean by culture?
Culture is lost with a lot of foster children, Indigenous children that perhaps go to live with white foster parents.
Yep.
That aren't knowledgeable in regards to culture and
Or heritage.
Well, their heritage, so...
They're not heritage, yeah. Really.
Yep.
absolutely.
You know, religion inside, but you still got heritage, you know, when
Yep.
your parents are European, Italian, Greek, they all have heritage.
Yeah, so
Chinese,
so where do your parents come from, Frank?
Basically from Hungary, which is part
Hungary?
of Europe, so
Yep.
the European culture, they're not used to that now, so yeah.
So you'd like them to know a little bit more about your culture
Yeah.
and where you come from?
Yeah, where my parents came from, the grandparents, they never met,
Yep.
sort of, you know.
Do you think kids in care actually have the opportunity to find out about your culture specifically, or
Not
not?
as so much the sense of culture, they try to get us to do like a family tree.
Yep.
To help the kids understand that family tree, they couldn't necessarily go there to explain it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
A case where you can't explain your whole heritage to them because they already know bits and pieces. You know it, you try to teach them that.
And the point is, do you have experiences from your parents and grandparents
Exactly.
and other people that pass that sort
Pass
of
down the knowledge
heritage
of
down?
food, whatever, culture-wise, like
Yeah.
preparing meals like they used to, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't teach that to a caseworker and expect them to teach your kids.
And we do it with a passion, don't we?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the Europeans always do it with passion because it's always been a family-orientated thing.
Yeah.
You know?
What about you, Anthony? Do you have a view on whether...
Yeah, I guess I suppose with the foster carers I've had to deal with so far in the time my kids have been cared, that they've actually been pretty good. Religion's been another thing that's come up though, where foster care was quite religious, and the department said to us, that they might go to church or something with that person. So I suppose, same point, we've got to be kind of a bit more open-minded to it as well. I suppose,
Yeah.
because we can't expect, I suppose, that person to change every part of their life to suit our children as well.
Yeah, that's good.
So so I guess my experience with it hasn't been too bad.
I guess the point is we need them to have some sort of understanding, maybe, as to what the culture of the children is.
Yes.
Particularly, as you say, Jodie, if they're Indigenous,
Absolutely.
clearly they need to
Absolutely.
understand.
Need to know the culture, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's vitally important.
Where they come from. That's
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of it is lost, and it's really sad.
Lost
And
off.
it's just not good enough.
And I think what happens to kids when they leave the foster system, and they want to know at that point about where they come from, particularly Indigenous kids, and I wonder what it is like for them to have to go through that period where they wonder about who they are, where they come from, and I guess it's that sense of identity. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. In that amount of time, though, people can pass, and that's why I think it's
Miss
really
out.
important that they bring it right back to the beginning, and foster parents are supported in, especially like I said, with culture, with our Indigenous children, because I have seen, in regards to stolen generation and things like that, when these children, as adults, seek other family members, and a lot of them have passed, and it's really sad, and
It
you
is.
can't bring them back. But if something can get put in place back in the beginning,
No, it is. So you might have some views on that. Please list them under the comment section, and we'll discuss them, and we'll talk about them when we do our live feed, which you'll be experiencing after this particular video. The next question we're going to ask is, how could foster parents be better supported?
perhaps some of the education, like the programs that the parents that are fighting to get their children back undertake. Yeah, absolutely.
If we can do the same courses that the foster parents should be doing the same.
All right, so
Yeah,
you're talking about like circular security and raising
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they're free courses. They don't cost anybody anything, and we can go along to
And
them.
absolutely
You'll
they can.
And
definitely
we can learn with them.
you learn a lot with it anyway.
Well, that's an interesting idea,
Yeah,
isn't it? What if you went with the foster parent? It's a great idea that we haven't thought of before. Thanks, Frank. So if you actually went to a program where they're talking about circular security or parenting,
Yeah.
and you went with the foster parents that are caring for your kids.
But then we'd also have to make sure that the information sinks in with the foster parents, just like, say, the department has to make sure that the
Maybe they-
information sinks in with the
Maybe they
parents.
need to have a review too.
Something like that.
A review.
Review the foster carers on their participation. If we're reviewed, why can't they?
Absolutely. And training in trauma.
Yeah.
So all the
Trauma
children
or
have
Trauma,
been
autism, whatever.
exposed to trauma, and as parents we need to understand how to nurture and how to meet our children's needs when they come home.
Yep.
But what happens to our children when they're in the care of foster parents?
That don't know how to
I'm
deal with
actually
themselves.
quite unaware of what any training that they go through, and I do believe from speaking to foster parent before that the department a lot of the time look at, well, now the children are in a safe environment and they're safe, so and leave it at that. But then if a lot of these children are being exposed to trauma, then they need further counselling, support, and absolutely therapy, but so do the foster parents.
Yeah.
Because that's right, they can't need to understand the emotions that the children are going through and be in that moment with them, support them, just as the parents need to learn how to.
Well, we are talking a little bit later about therapeutic foster care, and I think that's where those notions do come into play as well.
Well, support. Another thing for support from it is actually therapy for the foster care themselves. That's a big job when you think
Good
about it.
idea.
They're taking on somebody else's child
Yeah.
with all that they
With all the trauma.
baggage is not the right word to use,
Yeah.
but with all the trauma they've had and their past experiences, and they have to take that on, and that's a lot for a person to take on. So I think maybe that's another thing that they should be talking to these carers about, saying, look, these people are here for you to come talk to. So if you need to get some weight off your shoulder to help you understand this child better, and
Yeah, and one of the things that we've often talked about too is supervision for foster parents. So it should be professionalised in a way. I think we're discussing that later as well. But it basically should be professionalised so that foster parents are getting those sorts of help, that sort of help. In
because it's
terms
definitely
of,
something
And the
they
parents
do
and the
need.
department need to know that they are meeting the needs of the children.
yeah,
Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
so how about chucking a review there too? A
That's
review
what I
would
said,
be nice.
review
Yeah.
foster
Well, like you would if you've got a job, and you have
Performance
performance review.
Absolutely.
That's right.
KPI
That's right.
meets and all
I
that
do
stuff.
believe they do have reviews, but we don't get we're not privy to that
You
information.
think they should be transparent?
But I believe we
reviews?
should, because
Should be across the
it's
board.
reassuring for
Yeah.
us to know that our children are being looked after well.
If they're not,
Because if they're not, then something should be done about it.
Where they were.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, spot on.
If they get worse than what they were, well, something needs to be done.
What about foster parents who have been through their own traumas
Mm.
and
I've had it.
from
Yeah.
what, without saying too much. Okay, so perhaps like if it's a family member that's now like looking after a child, and you know that they have been through horrific traumas themselves, yet you don't know whether they've actually received any sort
And you
of
don't know.
therapeutic therapy.
Well, you're right, and you don't know whether or not those traumas are impacting the way that they're parenting
Are they
your
tuned
kids.
into
I know.
our children, or are
Yeah.
they tuned out? Which is the whole, like, this is what we have to learn, how important it is to be tuned into your children.
Yeah.
And if you've got your own hassles, things going on in your own heads, you're tuned out to them, and it's not good enough.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, great idea.
One-on-one too.
So we've come up with a few helpful ideas. Anthony, great idea that you presented. So we need to think a little bit more about how they can be better supported, which would mean that they would support our children better than what they
Meet
do
their needs,
and meet their
absolutely.
needs, because all these areas which impact us as parents as well, you know, the fact that we need to do parenting capacity, and that we need psychological assessment, and that we need drug testing, and we need all this stuff. Well, you know, the fact that these people who are supposed to be parenting our kids, perhaps they need the same sort of stuff as well, to make sure they're the ones that are doing.
Safe as well.
Well, and to keep them safe. Yeah, absolutely, Frank.
But they just have to put. I guess that they'd have to put that across to these the foster carers in a different way, so they're not. So the other thing is, I think we're running out of foster carers as well.
Well, we don't have enough.
We don't have enough, and if the department was to step in and say, start these ideas that we've come up with so far with them, well, if I was like in a position where I was going to be a foster carer, and then I was told, oh, you're going to have all these tests done, all this kind of stuff, you'd be like, oh, no, I don't want to do it. So I suppose it's got to be a way to put that across to them that makes them understand that this is not just for the child's benefit, but this is going to help you
understand that
child
And then what's their
live a little
reason
bit
to want
easier.
to be a foster parent in the first place?
It takes
Do you
a
know
lot
what I
of.
mean? It's
What's the
just-
motivation?
That's right. To be a foster parent, is it the money?
The
The money, or if it's a genuine
Love for kids.
genuine love to for children and wanting to help and give back to the community, then
Yeah.
those things shouldn't seem too hard to do.
No,
No,
it shouldn't.
But
But if somebody walks up to you and says to you, you need to have a drug test, and you've done nothing wrong, you don't have anything to do with it, what's your first
I
thing?
think the person
You're
that's
insulted
letting you
straight
know-
away,
yeah,
though, aren't you?
absolutely.
That's the.
People need to understand that it's protocol and it's about keeping children safe. So it goes back to which should be the same values as a foster carer in the first place. So that's when they should understand. So I guess it's how the
So there should be
information's
like
presented through-
a standard level that they all need to meet for for it to be a safe place for our children, really.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that would be
spot
the
Absolutely.
way to do it. Yeah.
So there's some legislation came out in New South Wales, I think it might have been. Someone will correct me whether that's true or not, in relation to foster parents actually being paid to do what they do. I think the figure they brought up was full-time fostering at $75,000 a year. We actually recommended that if
Sign me
you're,
up. Like,
yeah, but is that per child, for the kids? Or
well, that would be
for a
that could be
family?
for a couple of kids.
Or
But I think
is
one
it-
kid or two kids. I mean, who knows what
depending
that's
on their
for?
needs too.
And one of the things that we thought about, mate, was actually more than that. So we were thinking that a figure around $110,000, $120,000 would be appropriate for a professional person to be trained appropriately,
Absolutely.
to receive the
career-wise.
supervision that they need in terms of a career. When the kids aren't there, if the kids are at school, then there's stuff that they could be doing in order
Training,
to better themselves. Maybe getting a degree, maybe doing a certificate in youth work, doing whatever it is they need to do. They have to get to that standard.
Do you think that would increase the quality of care?
I think if they were supervised. See, the problem that we have with the foster care system at the moment is that it's ad hoc. Like, and I know not everybody can apply to be a foster parent. I know they have to go through police checks and child safety checks and so on. But at the end of the day, once they've got kids, they're left to their own devices.
Yep.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of foster parents, if there are some foster parents that do tune into this, let us know your experiences around that. We hope to have a foster parent here tonight, but she wasn't able to make it, unfortunately. But so I guess, do you think it's appropriate that a foster parent be paid to do what they have to do?
Because they have the
Yeah.
qualifications
If
to.
they're doing the work, to meet the kids' needs, why should they get reimbursed?
I suppose it's a nice incentive for them to be carers.
And
for
parenting
other
is hard
children.
work, isn't it? It's
But-
absolutely hard work.
It's an unpaid job, regardless of being paid as a parent, but as a foster carer, you're doing that little bit more.
And you're doing it for somebody
I
else.
know they seem to get quite a bit of money in the first place for doing it. They get a carer's pension straight off the bat plus whatever they're earning in the first place. I think
It's
by
not really
what
full-time, though.
I've talked to one of them about was that the amount they get is not so much changed by what their partner earns as well and stuff. So they do quite well. I think if we look at it properly though, if they got all the supports around what they already got, would be a lot better than just upping a wage.
And I think we're saying too that they're so it'd be a couple.
Because generally they have to be a couple.
Full time doing care. They've got young kids, older kids, and I don't know how many kids you'd have that would be worth that
If it's done
110,000.
properly, like we're talking routine, schooling,
Sports,
little girls have their hair
doctors.
brushed and, you know, like, and not that that's a major important thing, but, okay, example, with my own daughter, when she comes to Access and her hair's never brushed and hair, just rubber bands in her hair and stuff like that, it's like, I don't know, I'm sure there's enough money to be able to,
Sit down for
you know,
10 minutes and
have a brush,
tell them
that's
to
it,
brush
and do
their
something with
hair.
the hair and,
You keep rushing on.
Yeah.
Go down there. Yeah, no, you're right, and why? And the other thing too about foster parenting, I mean, and as parents, you know, with kids in foster care, maybe one of the things too is, you know, about how about feedback. So feedback with the foster parent about the things that perhaps you feel that could be improved, or
Could help.
feedback about where the child or children are
things
developing.
questions they've asked about family and,
Ask
Yeah.
them about themselves.
There is I don't think I've got a question here in relation to this, but also there's another issue, I guess, in terms of foster parents working with families as well. How do you guys feel about
Well, I
that?
think
That's
that
good.
I feel like that's
That's
a
a-
must. In my
Yeah,
my
right.
personal
Absolutely.
experience I've had to do with,
Foster
I
parent
have
can't do the course on the parents' job without knowing something about the parents.
Yeah.
So they can help the kids better understand where the foster carers come from.
in my personal case that I'm dealing with my children, I have 3 different children and 3 different foster carers, and I don't know them at all. So I have to trust in a department that I have no trust in to
Good point.
Tell me you get the right- you get
tell me
right
the
help.
truth about
But
how
would it
well my
matter?
kids are doing.
But Anthony, would it matter about whether you have trust or not in the department?
Well,
if you
if
had
you-
a good relationship, because I know with one of those foster parents,
I had
you
a
do have
very,
a good relationship.
I still have a very good relationship. Yes.
Yes.
I feel like you should, as a requirement for foster carers, I feel like you should be able to know them, talk to them, have
Right.
conversations with them, because then you're not. There's the problem with the world these days. I think is there's always a third party involved.
Exactly.
If the third party takes a step back and lets the 2 parties that need to be dealing with it,
A watch.
like all right, so we're not capable of looking after our children ourselves. This person stepped in there; they're taking a big responsibility looking after your child. Instead of the department stepping in and saying, "Look, we don't want you to talk to this person," they should be encouraging the conversation because then between the two of you, you'll learn from the foster carer,
What's happening.
and the foster carer will understand your children better, and that creates a relationship.
Yeah, spot on.
and at the end of the day, it's about the children.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and that's the way I look
And
at it, and that's
also-
what I've had actually with a foster carer. And so I still now, she doesn't have my 2 older boys anymore, but I still have a good
Yeah,
relationship with her. She still rings up, checks on how I'm doing. She still brings the boys that she hasn't had for almost a year now. She still rings up every couple of weeks and sees how they are, and that's because we have a good network between us.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. Actually.
Yeah, she's a really good lady. She
absolutely
is.
amazing. And there are a lot of good foster parents,
Hmm.
like foster carers, like that too. I think. There's one other point I was going to make. Do you think? Oh, it's gone. It's gone.
My bad.
It'll come back and say Anthony reminded me. Anthony reminded me
No,
of
you
it.
know what they say,
What?
must have been.
Good.
Yeah. Well, it was probably crap. Right. Should we have therapeutic foster placements? And what would that mean? So this is kind of part of this conversation
Yeah.
we're having earlier as to what would that look like if it was if you knew that it was about, as you said, kids dealing with the trauma
Yeah,
that perhaps
absolutely.
kids have been through.
So child therapy.
Yeah.
So that is in my case, is that something that I find is really important. I have a daughter that needs to have child therapy. They're saying that she's having child therapy, but we don't see any results of it, no feedback from it, nothing at all. But I still feel like it's very important that she's had to go through more than, well, it's not more than, but she's at that age where she understands it more.
Yeah.
So that's more impeding on her, and so we've pushed and pushed for her to have child therapy. So they're saying that she's seeing one, but
And I wonder what involvement the foster parents have in regards to that therapy, whether that therapist then speaks with the foster parents, because they're the ones that that's where that attachment is at that time, to sort of see if it's working,
Yep.
like the progress and stuff.
Yeah, but what about if the foster parent was the one that was equipped to do some of that? Probably not all of the therapy,
So
but at least to understand
I
enough
feel like
about
there'd be
child
a
That
bit,
development.
should
bit of an
be-
overreach for a foster carer to,
But
to
it
should
have to
be
maintain
mandatory.
that
This
side
is
as
another-
well.
Yeah, I tend to understand
It
what you're
should be
saying.
mandatory though, because that's what we have to meet to bring our children home. The department needs to know that we can meet our children's needs when they come home.
Yeah.
So, do they not need to know that these foster carers can meet our children's needs
Why
whilst
why
they're in
they
their
wouldn't
care?
care.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, good point. Excellent point.
But then they'd have to be qualified to do this. So that's like several years of.
Well, I-
Qualified as
Uni
we get ourselves. No, as
So-
I mean, like with the
Courses.
parenting
Courses and
No,
that.
the expectation.
programs we've been doing.
I mean, it's about the
Well, you'd
expectations around a parent versus the expectations around a foster
Mm.
parent.
Well, I suppose you'd hope that they have some understanding in the first place, because otherwise they're not very good foster carers, or people in general if they can't understand other people. But as them being like professionals in that aspect, I feel like that's a bit of an
Well, I
overreach
don't
for
think.
us.
No, I don't think we're not saying they need to be professionals. They need to be psychologists, social workers, or whatever. They can, but they need to go off and do the courses. They need to have the understandings around
Yeah, so-
trauma. They need to know what other processes to work with kids around that trauma. It isn't that other people might step in and do some trauma counselling with the kids, but it is about them having enough understandings. Because you get the day-to-day things happening with kids in the home
Yeah,
that need to be
right.
addressed immediately. So
Yeah.
that's the sort of foster parent I think that we need.
A lot of the foster care is just like any care with children. It's a learning curve as you go.
Yeah.
A lot of it you'll learn on the day. You don't learn it out of a book.
Yeah.
Same with being a normal parent. There's no rule book on parenting.
I suppose I'd like to think that's like a standard anyway, that they would have an understanding like of children because they're doing this because they have to do it because they like children. Because
If you didn't.
why else
Well,
would
one
you
would
take more
expect
kids on?
There's no
Like,
money, they know
a lot of them have
Yeah.
had huge
Yeah.
families. A lot of
Yeah.
them have had big families in the first
Right.
place, and they're a bit older now, and they want to raise small kids anyway. And
But
In
then
that
there are a lot
position,
of foster parents too that can't get other jobs, and all they have to have is
Is
a
a
DCSI and a police clearance, and
Hmm.
they've got it. And then however they treat the children, they treat them.
well, I suppose
Okay.
it all depends on each case on how intensive DCP is into that thing. It's like if they're on a long-term order, DCP is not in it that often.
Yeah,
They're
that's right.
they're only in
Take a
short-term
step back.
orders. DCP's there a lot. So
And I just want to say one thing about all this too, which does concern me. And I was talking to a dad today about it, and that is that the child has gone from a normal foster placement to a kinship placement, and we're concerned because we know there's drugs and alcohol and violence in this kinship placement, right? And we're concerned that the department has not done due diligence in terms of evaluating and assessing this other person. So there's this other issue too, whereas if we're cut and dry, these are the things that are requirements around foster parents and kinship carers. It's not just about being the foster parent,
Yeah,
it's about kinship carers, that they're providing adequate support.
as well.
and a
that
safe
they-
environment, obviously,
A sa-
because that's not a
absolutely.
safe environment at all.
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely. So just to go from foster care to kinship care, because kinship care often appears to be cheaper for the department, and if you're Indigenous in particular, as is the case here, this child needs to be an Indigenous family. I understand all of that, but does that exclude them from meeting the requirements, the baseline?
No, it shouldn't at all.
Shouldn't at all,
Should
should
be
it?
a certain protocol for
Right across
just.
the board.
Yep.
If they want to have that child in their care, then they should have to go out and learn things, change their habits
Absolutely.
themselves, because
If
what's
they know
expected
they've
of
got-
us.
Yeah.
So-
Speak of the program that we've just recently completed.
Sure.
Okay, so I've just
Don't
recently
have to whisper it to me, just
completed
speak to the
an
microphone.
absolutely amazing program through Aboriginal Family Support Service, and it's called Circle of Security. And if we could get that right back to the beginning in the hospitals, in an antenatal program, it would be amazing. I took so much out of this program, and it also brings people together.
Yeah.
I've met some amazing people doing the program, and it's just can't say enough about it.
No, it is a very positive program.
You
Amazing.
done it as well?
I've done it
It
4
is
times.
amazing.
4 times.
Um,
Yeah, right.
and
Deliver it,
the
I reckon.
funny thing about it though is each time you do it, you learn something new.
That's right.
It's not
Absolutely.
it's you don't want to do it too often too quickly though. Like I've had good spans between each time I've done it, but each time I go back and if I didn't remember something, it's reminded me, or
Yes.
I've learned
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
new. So
I
it is a
think
very good
depends on
program.
The way that the program's facilitated also.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I completed the program, I have done Circle of Security before, and it was a one-on-one program, and we spent an hour watching DVD, and then I was asked a question, answered, and I got a handout at the end. And that was for an hour. Whereas the program I just completed through AFS, it spread over 4 hours. And there's so much interaction, there's stories, there's like friendships that are made, and you get to interact with other people and discuss and like say what's going on with you, and you're in a safe environment. And so it just hit home, and I took so much more out of it this time.
And
Amazing.
they're people with similar experiences too, I guess. to your own.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
And generally, the people that are presenting the course themselves put their own little spin on it. Each person has a different way of presenting it as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's something I
Good
found
point,
quite
Jane.
interesting.
yeah. And empathy,
Absolutely.
like, massive.
So the next question we're going to look at is, should we have foster parents working with parents to encourage better relationships?
Well, that's something we touched on
We
already.
touched
Yes,
on that already,
Touch
haven't
that
we?
aside,
Yeah.
yeah.
I definitely agree. That's something that should be
That way
worked
you
on.
can pass on what you know might help the carer.
And the parent
Or
can still
foster
feel
care.
like they're
Oh,
involved
that's what I
in
was
the
gonna
child's
say.
life.
Yeah, just remember what I was going to say before.
So
That's
it
what I was
wasn't
going to say.
You got
It
it.
wasn't. No.
You guys
Oh
totally
God, I
recall.
forgot it again. No. It was about foster parents. You know, like foster parents, I reckon, are sometimes given a false narrative about the
the
parent.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
That is very much a
So if the
problem.
foster parent
Yeah,
has
it's
an
not bad.
opportunity to meet up with people like you guys,
So
who are
we are
fabulous.
But see, the department then worry about things like this because
Because of
then,
conspiracy.
yeah, but then a foster parent would be questioning, well, hang on, you know, and then they could perhaps stand up in court and it could like make things
Backfire.
worse.
Cool.
Why could they do that? What does
Doesn't
that mean?
mean-
Well, the department doesn't want
make
doesn't
it
want
wrong.
you to know what. In my understanding, they don't want you to have a close relationship with the foster carers because then the department becomes cut out. So in my case, with
Oh, so they
people
lose
were-
control.
we
Is
would-
that what you're saying?
yeah, they don't have the control of. So Debbie and I, we
Perhaps
had a
they
lot
should.
of conversations all the time. She'd ring quite regularly. We'd talk about things the boys were doing at school, stuff like that. And so the department
We
wasn't
will
so much in
bleep. We
control.
will bleep out the name.
Sorry.
I just want you to know.
So the department didn't get as much involvement in the cases like they were trying to have because we just kind of shoved them aside,
So-
and so they didn't like that at all. So they actually started causing Debbie trouble as well. So they started going
We
to
will
school.
bleep out the name. I just want you to
Yeah,
know.
sorry, I keep saying it. But they started going to the school and hassling my boys at the school about what things were like at home with the carer as well.
Oh,
And
wow.
so you've got to be a little bit careful. But I feel like that a relationship between the foster family and yourself is really important. They
Because
need to
that
know
played-
you.
But that did play an important part
Well,
too
it
in
did,
your
because
relationship
she-
with the carer,
yeah,
wasn't
She
it?
was able to support the boys with their acknowledgement of who I am,
Yeah.
and
And it was a positive,
Sure.
and it becomes a positive
it
experience.
was a very positive
Absolutely.
relationship.
But okay, so my situation with my youngest daughter, her carer is her paternal aunt, and I hadn't seen her for many years, and I had said to the department that I'd like to build a relationship with her. I think it's really important for my daughter, and the department said that they would ask, and they came back to me saying that they asked, and she wasn't interested. But
But was she encouraged?
well, as it
You know, this is better.
it gets
You don't know.
better. As it so turns out to be, my second eldest daughter was at work and actually bumped into the aunt. And then I found out that that wasn't the case at all. She'd never said that she didn't want to build a relationship with me. And then we exchanged numbers and we were like texting each other in regards to my daughter. And yeah, sort of I found out a lot of things in regards to appointments that the department just, didn't follow up
Doesn't
on so
inform
many
you about.
things. Yeah, and I
Yep.
think that that's what they try and keep from you because
So if it was,
Sorry,
Frank.
That way you're really involved in carer.
yeah,
No
yeah.
matter the people who
But if it was a policy, if the department recognised the advantages though of having that type of relationship, and they tried to foster those relationships, and they found foster parents that kind of sat.
well, how
with
hard would it be
you.
to recognise those advantages for the children?
before.
But
Well, that's right. Why not? And
because
isn't it
it's
about?
the
the
disadvantages to the department, not the advantages to the children.
I thought it was always about what's in the best interest of our
The
kids.
child.
No, you got it wrong.
Did I get that wrong?
Yeah.
Okay.
Best is not the
All these years and you've had it
I've
wrong.
had it. I'm a slow learner, Anthony. I can tell you now.
All these years.
But
Now-
it would be great to hear from if there's any parents out there that do communicate with, like yourself, with the foster parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great to hear from them.
Yeah, why not?
We just brought off.
I just better check to see whether that's still operating. I can hear that all that.
So we'll say crack the screen.
You can cut all this out and leave that.
Yeah, it's still
Awesome-
working.
Awesome discussion.
Still going. It was a
This
good
is
discussion,
really
wasn't
good
it?
discussion.
Yeah. You
Well
guys
done,
are seriously.
These are
I
awesome.
will edit. I don't know if I'll edit this out, but you guys are amazing.
We are shit
You
hot.
guys are. I have to edit shit.
As long as you lead it right up to that point where she says that, they'll understand.
They'll get it. They'll get it.
Amazing.
No, this is a fabulous discussion.
Yes,
Seriously, I
yes.
wished we had this kind of discussion. This is fantastic. I'm really happy with. Well,
Now
I'm
we just
glad
got to
it
try
was-
to get the minister here.
Oh, that would be a challenge, wouldn't it?
That-
Maybe we
yeah.
should all work up to her office with the lights and the cameras and the computer.
Just take over her office while she's in there working.
Okay, so we've got two more questions that we wish to discuss. Should foster parents advocate for the children in their care?
Yeah, why not?
Well, that's a part. Well, really,
If
a
there's-
foster parent is being a parent to our children. So, what a parent would do for their child, then
It's the
that's
same
what
as
a foster
advocating.
parent should be doing for the child too.
Yeah,
You advocate for your child what they need, they advocate for your child, vice versa.
yeah, yeah. So they should. So in other words, do you believe they should have a voice for the child? But sometimes we hear that voice being distorted a little bit.
No.
You know, you hear.
I don't know what
That's one way to put it.
You know, the children come home after access and
Oh,
they're
they scratch until they bleed, and then
Pick
they
the nose
just
till they
don't go to
bleed.
sleep.
You pick the noses one over here. That's right. That's right. So
And then
The
some
violent
of them have to
others.
sleep with a photo of the grandmother because they can't get to sleep.
or they
My
can't, just don't get to sleep.
My eldest used to cry to sleep with a photo. Think of ourselves, my wife and myself, it's like,
Of
Yeah,
the,
it's
a
pretty
photo
bad.
of you guys.
it's
Yeah,
pretty bad when
absolutely.
the only child cries
Yeah.
himself to sleep holding the photo
Yeah.
or looking
Yeah.
at a photo.
Because
The
they
younger
miss.
one doesn't understand because
Yeah.
he's in a separate room, whereas before they were in the same room together.
Mm.
That little bit of separation does come to a point where it's not fair on the
Absolutely.
kids,
And
No,
then
no.
we've got the ones that are totally separated in households.
or separate
Well,
households.
the kids are
separate
separated.
families.
Yep.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
advocated
Bigger
a
trauma.
long time ago
Yeah.
that they stay together regardless.
Why don't we?
Yeah,
why don't we
did the
address
same,
that?
but
as these feed
didn't
off
work
each
out.
other therapy wise.
So I have 5 kids in care, and 2 of them are in the same house together, but the other 3 are separated in 3 different houses.
And
um,
that's not good.
And so that's not good because those so it's the younger 3 they've always been together until they were separated. So a year and a half I think it was in care together, the 3 of them, and then separated, different care for each
And there's
one.
that bond.
And each child's taken it differently, and it's been a very big strain on them.
And
So
they
I
can't,
wonder
they
what-
can't, they can't cope with that sort of thing.
And you try to communicate with these carers, like I try to get messages to them through the department, but you know they're not going
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you know when you talk to somebody and you know they're not going to take on what you're saying because you can see that in their face that they just don't care.
So I wonder
Yeah,
if
totally
in a
job.
situation like that, if there's 5 children, if it would be better for those 5 children to stay together and be in residential care and have alternating shift workers that come in, but the children still together. It's
Well,
Even
we
that-
had a discussion last week about
Even-
residential
I was saying,
care,
even that situation, it's hard.
but maybe we could revisit that.
I suppose the problem with us,
But we're not in favour of residential care per
No.
se.
No.
Why can't we have?
Places
Why can't we have a family environment where
Right.
those
oh,
trained
yeah, absolutely.
trained people are
That is
there
easy.
Come
in a
and
home.
see you.
in a home? Sorry.
Well, they have the kids at home and people just pop in and see how it's going.
my 2 older
Offer
boys were in
support.
residential care before they went to Debbie. They did. So they had round clock carers and stuff like that. And in that small period of time, I think it was 8 weeks all up there in residential care. That's it. In that small time there, any kind of behaviour you taught them, like any positive behaviour, stuff, out the window.
Exactly.
They thought they'd get everything the way they want and all of that. So I know that the carer that the boys went to after that, she had to work really hard to get routines back into the
Yeah,
boys.
yeah,
because
yeah.
it was unstable.
So,
and
Take that
care
on
and
board.
The other thing you got to look at if you're like multiple kids in the care is that the older kid ends up having to be more of a parent for the younger kids, which is something they shouldn't have to do.
And also, the other issue, of course, is the savings, because if you have a home where someone's paid $110,000, $20,000, whatever it is, and as opposed to $10,000 a week, which
Exactly.
residential care costs,
It's a
That's
lot
true.
more
Yeah,
than
they-
110,000.
yeah, like you got to be ahead of the game, aren't you?
Exactly.
So why don't the department take note of the fact that we can save them money with some of our ideas, and have better outcomes for kids? At the end of the day,
And
this is
as
what
you've
Yeah,
always said,
kids,
what would
solid.
you like to project that money back into, Tony? That they save?
what
The
they
roads.
save.
No.
No risk. The kids, the families that are at risk.
Yeah.
Families that are
Therapy for
back into the
families.
families, so
Yeah,
that
that's
way can
right.
be. Yeah.
I believe the biggest issue we have with all of this stuff is the problem that the department never wants to be wrong. No matter what you do, no matter what you present,
Yeah,
they
right.
believe they're doing it the right way.
I was right today.
So
Sorry, just
You're
had to
always-
add that.
you're
I was
always-
right today.
Jodie's always right.
you don't get real apologies from them, though.
No.
I've proved my group wrong
So-
multiple times.
So the final question that we've got that we want to explore, and then we'll wrap it up, is should foster parents have a voice in decision making?
Absolutely.
To a
Because-
point.
To a point.
Ah, yes.
To a
See,
point.
I reckon there's a caveat.
It depends what it's about. If it's about
Yeah.
culture again, or religion, or how the kids are behaving, well, no, not really. They're gonna understand that this is how we deal with it. That's the way they do it. But again, there's
So you're saying that the views of the parents might be completely different from that of the foster
Yeah,
parents?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's hard, like, we know, like, there's, there's Christmases we go without, stuff like that, and you just get used to it because that's how it is. But when someone else is looking after your child, and you want to keep as much, I guess, as your family and your values, and in with your children, but they are taking on the role of parent to our children while for that time we can't be there. So, yeah, they obviously need to have a voice in decision making, but it's about on what.
So I suppose that still comes up to the same part where we kind of need to know the carers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Because then
absolutely.
they're-
Interaction.
I don't have a problem with having a
Absolutely.
decision to a point though, because like we know that they don't get told everything, and we don't get told everything
Mm.
back from or what's going on with our children
Just
enough.
say something really dangerous.
So
So
Yeah.
it is quite. It would be dangerous to the department because then they'd be making decisions with us. We might agree, the department disagrees, then they're going to have to pee us off and the foster carers at the same time off with going against what we say.
the kids suffer again.
So
But if that was to happen, like with that interaction between the foster parents and the parents, it would be so much better for the children, right?
Exactly.
And then, but don't you think that would empower the parents and like
They do feel
help
good
them with
about
their journey? Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
well, that's it. We'd
Help
learn
them
from them.
We can learn from each other, really.
So
at the end of the day.
we do.
we have to live in a society where, and that's the way humans are. We're society based. We've always been like that, and we always learn from each other, bad habits, good habits. So why can't we keep learning good positive habits from people that are obviously doing well at it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
So so we might just finish off by just doing, if go around and everybody just do a recap of the the important thing that's kind of come out of this discussion for you today. Frank, do you want to start with that?
More or less that working with the carers, it'd be good if it was allowed. That way they can understand where you're coming from, you can understand where they're coming from, and basically the kids understand where both of you are coming from.
Yeah.
Trying to parent you, whether you're in the picture or out the picture.
Thanks, mate. Journey.
I would like to hear the argument come back in regards to why it just wouldn't be possible to have foster parents working with parents.
that'd be interesting to see
I'd
them.
love to hear that.
Love to know the
It would be
reason.
interesting.
They want us to work, the department wants you to work with them, but they won't work with you, so what's...
Yeah, and
that's same,
there are some programs in the UK where that's what they do. They foster literally those relationships between parent and foster care, and it's been proved to be a very successful program. I just don't know why we don't do it here.
No money in it.
So, and well,
That's probably what it is.
well, maybe it's about this industry that's created in relation to having kids looked after and taken from the parent. But we'll talk about that some other time. Anthony, for you, what's the most important thing for you?
Well, same, I guess. The encouragement by the department would be nice that we have relationships with carers.
Yeah.
To be able to better raise our children with them. I think that is the most important key. And it would be nice to hear from other people that are in the situation where they do have communication with the parent, and that if they do have a good relationship, because the more people out there that are having that kind of communication, if we can get that out there that it does work, then maybe the department will open their eyes up and see the change.
And it does. It impacts things like birthdays. Frank, we know that's an issue for you guys.
Absolutely, because if it is a
It's
caseworker,
a
9 to 5, sort of,
kid.
then you can't see them.
You can't see kids.
But if you had that on the weekends, you know that, Frank.
Special time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if you had that open relationship, they could make ways to invite you over to their place to.
For dinner or something.
Phone-
to
even-
be with
even
the
phone
kids.
calls. Phone calls are something you can do if you have a
We've
conversation with
encouraged
them.
our children to read on special occasions, or if they feel upset, read, ask if you can
How
read.
amazing
Yeah,
would it
no
be to
worries.
just be able to ring them and say,
We can't read them.
read them a book over the
us.
phone,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
bedtime
I
stories.
used to read to my kids, or they used to wait till I come home and go to sleep. Stuff like that.
Well, I guess the
It's the
answer.
little things that you
It's
miss.
safe.
It's not the big
Yeah.
things. It's the little things you don't really think about are the
And
ones
I
that you
would
miss the
still
most.
get
These you take for granted though.
Mm.
You know, I had a client, a male client, some time back who just broke down in tears because he's missed so many milestones.
Mm.
Yeah.
His child, you know,
First day
crawling,
school,
walking.
first day kiddie.
Well,
first
even
day
the first time that child
Well,
walked.
lost a
you know.
tooth or whatever. back
Yeah.
to
And it's
fall-
heartbreaking as, but we must remember it's the future milestones. That's what you've got to hold on to.
Well, there are
Yeah,
lots of
but-
other milestones
Well,
you can go
the
through.
future
with it.
milestones they
Absolutely.
might not make because they're not getting the right nurture along the way to reach those, they're striving forward, they
Yeah.
want to be better, they don't want to be in the system, or they want to be out of the system, they want to have better relationships with themselves when they get older with their kids, if they have kids,
I think
if the challenges of life.
Well, it is about them becoming adults and how
And
they.
them making these decisions.
I think
for
the
somebody
saddest point
else.
about all that though is when the child reaches the age that they don't trust the department.
Exactly.
and that happens a
some
lot
don't
too.
That's
trust
when
it
they
out.
turn 18 and they can do
No,
their own
even
thing.
younger ages.
They
Younger
are-
ages out, then they
at
realise they
12,
can't trust these
13,
people.
They start running away. That's when
That's,
they
and
start
the
trying to
majority of
trust
children like you have your 18-year order, and then the 18-year order expire. Where do you think the majority of those children go?
Straight back home.
back to their parents.
Or
Yep.
before
Well,
that,
a lot
All
of
the
them-
time.
By which time, sometimes they've lost contact with their parents, so they become
It's very
homeless.
hard.
Yeah, that too.
turn out
Absolutely,
alcohol, drugs,
absolutely.
whatever.
And they hang around with other. They often hang around with other kids.
Kids that are in a
Don't-
similar
don't have that.
situation because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't have to
A lot
explain
of
how you
kids
Don't
understand
have
it.
that sense of belonging.
A lot
Well,
of kids
really,
care
if
in
that's
that
where you
way.
come from, where would your sense of
Yeah.
belonging come from?
Mm.
Okay,
That's
guys,
true.
fabulous. The thing I've learned most from today was what a fabulous group of people we have to be able to talk to us about these issues and how not only articulate are they, but what great people they are in their own right, and also the ideas. Some of the ideas that you guys have presented just off the cuff have been fabulous because these are people that have lived experience around this problem in a way. Because the kids are in care. So I want to thank everybody for being with us. Now stay tuned though, because as soon as this video is finished, we will then be going to have a conversation with Dr. Deirdre Michelle. Stick around.